I was just trying to survive, working double shifts at a small coffee shop to feed my daughter. Then this man in an expensive suit walked in, took one look at me, and whispered something that would change everything. What he said next made my world stop spinning. Before we dive into this incredible story that proves love can find you in the most unexpected places, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Trust me, you won't want to miss how this unfolds. Now, let me tell you about the day my life changed forever. My name is Camila, and 6 months ago, I thought I knew exactly what my life would look like. I'd wake up at 5 in the morning, get my 6-year-old daughter Mia ready for school, drop her off, and rush to open Brew and Bean, the small coffee shop where I worked double shifts just to keep our heads above water. Every day was the same routine, the same struggle, the same worry about whether I'd have enough money to pay rent or buy groceries. I never imagined that one ordinary Tuesday morning would turn my entire world upside down. It was raining that day, I remember, because I had to mop up puddles by the entrance every few minutes. The morning rush was dying down, and I was wiping down the counter when the bell above the door chimed. I looked up and saw him for the first time. This man in an expensive charcoal gray suit, perfectly tailored, with the kind of confidence that comes from never having to worry about money. But what struck me wasn't his obvious wealth. It was his eyes. They held this deep sadness that seemed to weigh down his entire presence. He approached the counter slowly, almost hesitantly, and when our eyes met, something strange happened. His face went completely pale, like he'd seen a ghost. For a moment, he just stood there, staring at me with this mixture of shock and pain that made my heart skip a beat. I cleared my throat and smiled, trying to break the tension. "Good morning," I said. "What can I get you today?" He blinked, as if snapping out of a trance, and his voice was barely above a whisper when he finally spoke. Just black coffee, please." I poured his coffee, my hands steady, despite the strange energy filling the space between us. When I handed him the cup, our fingers brushed for just a second, and I swear I felt electricity shoot through my entire body. He pulled out his wallet and placed $100 bill on the counter. "Keep the change," he said. But as he turned to leave, I heard him whisper something that made my blood run cold. "You look just like her." Before I could ask what he meant, he was gone, leaving me standing there with $97 in change and a million questions racing through my mind. Who did I look like? Why did seeing me affect him so deeply? And why couldn't I stop thinking about the pain in his eyes? The next morning, he came back. Same time, same order, same $100 tip. This time, he sat at the small table by the window, and I could feel him watching me as I worked. It should have made me uncomfortable, but instead, it made me curious. During a quiet moment, I walked over to his table. "I'm Camilla," I said, extending my hand. "I don't think we were properly introduced yesterday." He looked up from his coffee, and for the first time, I saw a hint of a smile. "Robert," he replied, shaking my hand gently. "And I owe you an apology for yesterday." I was caught off guard. "By what?" I asked, sitting across from him. Something about this man made me want to understand him, to help him carry whatever burden was making him so sad. Robert was quiet for a long moment, staring into his coffee, as if it held all the answers. "You remind me of someone very important to me," he finally said. "Someone I lost." The pain in his voice was so raw, so real, that I reached across the table and touched his hand without thinking. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "Losing someone you love is the hardest thing in the world." He looked up at me then, really looked at me, and I saw something shift in his expression. "How do you know?" he asked. I told him about Mia's father, how he left when she was just a baby, how I'd loved him completely and thought we'd build a life together. "It's not the same as death," I admitted. "But losing someone who is supposed to be your forever, it changes you." From that day forward, Robert came to the coffee shop every morning. We'd talk for a few minutes each time, and slowly, I began to piece together his story. He was a successful businessman, the kind who owned companies I'd only heard about on the news. But 2 years ago, his wife Angela died in a car accident, and he'd been drowning in grief ever since. He worked 18-hour days to avoid going home to their empty house, and he hadn't let anyone get close to him since she passed. The resemblance is striking, he told me one morning, showing me a photo of Angela. She was beautiful, with similar features to mine. But looking at her picture, I could see we were very different people. But you're not her, he continued. And I'm starting to realize that might be exactly what I need. 3 weeks after we met, Robert brought me flowers for the first time. Not expensive roses or exotic orchids, but simple daisies, the kind Mia loved to pick in the park. I remembered you mentioning these were your daughter's favorites, he said, looking almost nervous as he handed them to me. I was so touched that I actually teared up. Nobody had brought me flowers in years. Robert, you didn't have to do this. I wanted to, he said simply. Camilla, would you maybe like to have dinner with me sometime? Just the two of us. My heart started racing. Part of me wanted to say yes immediately, but another part was terrified. I was a single mom, working in a coffee shop, and he was a billionaire. What could we possibly have in common beyond our shared experience of loss? I'd like that, I heard myself saying. But I should tell you, I come as a package deal. Mia is my whole world, and anyone in my life has to understand that she comes first. Robert's smile was genuine when he replied, I wouldn't expect anything less from a good mother. Our first real date was that Saturday. Instead of some fancy restaurant, Robert suggested we take Mia to the park. I was nervous about introducing them, but the moment they met, something magical happened. Robert got down on Mia's level, asked her about her favorite playground equipment, and spent the entire afternoon pushing her on the swings and helping her across the monkey bars. Watching this powerful, wealthy man playing with my daughter like he had all the time in the world made something flutter in my chest. Mommy, Mia whispered to me as we sat on a bench watching Robert try to master the art of hopscotch. I like the nice man. He makes you smile the way you used to. That night, after Mia was asleep, Robert and I sat on my small apartment balcony, sharing a bottle of wine and talking about everything and nothing. He told me about his childhood, his dreams before business consumed his life, and how he'd always wanted children but never got the chance. I shared my hopes of someday opening my own bakery, my fears about raising Mia alone, and how hard it was to trust anyone new. I haven't felt this comfortable with someone in 2 years, Robert admitted, reaching for my hand. Angela always said I needed someone who would challenge me to be better, someone who wouldn't let me hide from life. I think she would have liked you. When he kissed me that night, it was soft and tentative, like he was asking permission. But when I kissed him back, I felt something I hadn't experienced since Mia was born. Hope. Hope that maybe, just maybe, I deserved love too. Over the next few months, Robert became a constant presence in our lives. He'd show up at the coffee shop with homework help for Mia, flowers for me, and stories that made us both laugh until our sides hurt. He fixed our broken air conditioner, taught Mia how to ride a bike, and gradually our small apartment began to feel like a home again. But it wasn't always easy. There were moments when I'd catch Robert staring at me with that same heartbroken expression from our first meeting, and I'd wonder if he was seeing me or seeing Angela. There were nights when I'd lie awake, wondering if this was real, or if I was just a convenient replacement for the woman he truly loved. Everything changed the night Mia got sick. She spiked a fever of 104, and I was panicking, trying to get her to the emergency room without a car. I called Robert, sobbing into the phone, and he was at my apartment in 10 minutes. He drove us to the hospital, held my hand while we waited for test results, and stayed with us all night until the doctors confirmed it was just a bad flu. You didn't have to stay, I told him, as we finally headed home at dawn. I know you have important meetings. Robert stopped walking and turned to face me. Camilla, there is nothing, absolutely nothing, more important to me than you and Mia. I need you to understand that. I'm not here because you remind me of Angela anymore. I'm here because you're you, and I'm falling in love with who you are." The tears came then, months of fear and uncertainty pouring out of me. "I'm scared," I whispered. "I'm scared that this is too good to be true, that you'll realize I'm just a single mom who serves coffee, and you'll leave." Robert cupped my face in his hands, his thumbs wiping away my tears. "You're not just anything, Camila. You're the strongest woman I've ever met. You've raised an incredible daughter, you work harder than anyone I know, and you've taught me how to live again. I love you, not because you look like someone else, but because you're exactly who you are." When he proposed 3 months later, it wasn't with a flashy public display or an enormous diamond. Instead, he came to the coffee shop early one morning before we opened, with Mia hiding behind the counter, giggling with excitement. He got down on one knee, right there by the espresso machine, and pulled out a simple, elegant ring. "Camila," he said, his voice shaking with emotion, "you saved me when I didn't even know I needed saving. You and Mia have given me a family I never thought I'd have again. Will you marry me?" Before I could answer, Mia popped up from behind the counter. "Say yes, Mommy. Robert promised to help me learn to bake cookies." I was laughing and crying at the same time as I said yes, as Robert slipped the ring onto my finger, as he kissed me while Mia cheered in the background. It was perfect in its simplicity, just like everything about our love story. Our wedding was small, held in the same park where we had our first date. Mia was my maid of honor, walking down the aisle in a yellow dress that matched the daisies in my bouquet. When Robert and I exchanged vows, I promised to love him not despite his grief, but including it, because it had made him the compassionate man I fell in love with. He promised to be not just my husband, but Mia's father in every way that mattered. For our honeymoon, we went to a small beach town, just the three of us. We built sand castles, collected seashells, and took long walks at sunset, while Mia ran ahead, chasing waves. One evening, as we sat on the beach watching her play, Robert turned to me with tears in his eyes. "I never thought I'd be happy again," he said quietly. "I thought my story ended when Angela died. But you and Mia, you didn't just give me a new chapter, you gave me a whole new book." Now, a year later, I wake up every morning in our beautiful home, watching Robert make breakfast, while Mia shows him her latest art project. I opened my bakery 6 months ago, with Robert's support and encouragement, and it's everything I dreamed it would be. But the best part isn't the success or the financial security. It's the way Robert looks at me across the dinner table, like I'm the most precious thing in his world. It's how he tucks Mia into bed every night, reading her stories and promising to teach her about business when she's older. It's the way we've built something beautiful from our broken pieces. Sometimes people ask me if I ever worry that I was just a replacement, if Robert only chose me because I reminded him of someone he lost. But I know better now. Love isn't about replacing what you've lost. It's about being brave enough to let someone new write their own story in your heart. Robert didn't love me because I looked like Angela. He loved me because I showed him that it was okay to live again, to hope again, to believe that happiness could come twice in one lifetime. And me, I learned that sometimes the most beautiful love stories begin with the simplest moments. A cup of black coffee, a whispered observation, a willingness to see beyond the surface to the heart underneath. I learned that love doesn't always announce itself with grand gestures. Sometimes it sneaks up on you in a small coffee shop on a rainy Tuesday morning, wearing an expensive suit and carrying a grief so deep you want to heal it. If this story touched your heart the way it changed mine, please hit that like button and share it with someone who believes in second chances. Love finds us when we least expect it, in the most ordinary moments, with the most extraordinary results. Don't forget to subscribe for more incredible stories about love, hope, and the beautiful ways our lives can change in an instant. Remember, your story is still being written, and the best chapters might be just around the corner. Until next time, keep believing in magic.